Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words, tolerated. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest I've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Around the nation, TYT Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you. Welcome to the show. Whoops. We got a great show for you guys today on this Monday. Hopefully everybody had a great Father's Day holiday. It's fairly nice. I'm not a father, but nonetheless, despite COVID, I was able to actually spend some time with family members, and that was nice to be able to do that. So hopefully everybody else had an excellent day as well and stayed safe during the weekend. Anyway, we got a great show for you guys today. We've got Donald Trump's disastrous Tulsa rally. Oh, man. That's funny. We have the Walk of Shame. Zoomers and TikTok streamers and K-pop stans. We got it all. It's awesome. We even have a Project Lincoln ad that is vicious. I love it. And they don't even really have to do anything. I'll show you that. Not wanting to spoil it too much. You might have already seen it. But then we've got, of course, tweets about voting. Yeah. So we've got that. We also have Kentucky actually doing voter suppression. Shocker, the day before the primary. And then we have disastrous climate change news. The world is melting. So, yeah, a lot of fun. We'll start out with, of course, making fun of the Orange Menace. And then, of course, looking at the real menace that's going on. And that's, of course, climate change. Oh, boy. So we'll start fun, get depressing. That's kind of how we normally do it on the show. So before we get into the details and the stories, I want to ask you all, please, to like and share the stream. Very important you do so. Of course, it always goes to help the show. You help the show, you help get out the message, and it makes the progressive movement stronger. And the one thing that we need is we need more people tuning into independent media. We got to get people away from the CNNs, MSNBCs, and especially the Fox Newses of the world, because that's the better way to get informed is through independent media, so you can see what's really going on and how you're basically being screwed over by both parties. It's a little bit less than the Democrats, but nonetheless. All right. I know I've gotten a lot of messages from people who are like, thank you for like actually informing me and like getting people away from, establishment media so that we know what's going on Yeah, I did a lot of reporting in the primaries, of course, not just this primaries, but also back in 2016, 2015, when those primaries were going on. And it's always good to see those messages. And it's always good to, of course, make a difference. And so I'm glad I was able to do that. All right. And I'm going to continue to do that with your guys' help. All right. Let's get into the stories. President Donald Trump's big comeback rally in Tulsa was supposed to be the ultimate kickoff to MAGA season and a return to the exuberant Trump rallies of yore. Except that it wasn't. Now, the campaign on Friday, before the rally, boasted of being able to easily fill the 19,200 seat Box Center. And of course, the reality turned out to be super, super sad and pathetic. According to the Tulsa Fire Marshal, only about 6,200 supporters ultimately occupied the general admission sections of the venue, which of course had enraged the president, as he had had to look out upon this. Oh. Sad. But hey, look, social distancing, right? They know how to socially distance, at least. I mean, I guess it's hard not to when there's not that many people, but anyway. So, according to NBC News, Trump fumed at his top political aides on Saturday, even before the rally began, after his campaign revealed that 6 members of the advance team on the ground in Tulsa had tested positive for COVID-19, including Secret Service personnel, according to a person familiar with the discussions. Trump had asked those around him why that information was exposed and expressed annoyance that the coverage ahead of his mega rally was dominated by the revelation. Okay, so realize he's not mad because the 6 members of his team got sick. No. He's mad that it got reported, that it actually went out to the news, that people know that, oh, right, turns out that place not exactly safe because of COVID-19. And also because he thinks that it hurt his attendance. Attendance that was incredibly hyped up by the campaign, especially campaign manager Brad Parscale. So now, in fact, the campaign was so confident about high turnout that it set up an overflow area that never got used. It was expected to attract thousands of people, but the plan was scrapped at the last minute when only dozens gathered at the time the vice president and the president were set to address the crowd inside. That is, of course, deeply embarrassing. Super embarrassing. Leading one Trump ally to remark, quote, "It's politics 101. You underpromise and overdeliver." And in this case, you had the complete opposite, which of course is 100% Trump. You guys remember, originally when Trump came out, he didn't have adoring crowds and fans. He had to pay people. So he had to pay people, and then then it caught on. It went from inorganic paid people to not, organic, and now we're basically back to if he doesn't pay people, people don't show up. That's what that is. Now, you of course had Parscale on Twitter saying that over 1 million people had registered. And hundreds of thousands of people, they're going to show up. They're going to show up. We find out, of course, that a lot of the people that registered, a decent number of them, were TikTok Zoomers and K-pop stans, which is awesome. According to the New York Times, TikTok users and fans of Korean pop music groups claim to have registered potentially hundreds of thousands of tickets for Mr. Trump's campaign rally as a prank. After the Trump campaign's official account, @Team Trump, posted a tweet asking supporters to register for free tickets using their phones on June 11th. K-pop fan accounts began sharing the information with followers, encouraging them to register for the rally and then just not show up. That trend quickly spread on TikTok, where videos with millions of views instructed viewers to do the same. which is fucking hilarious. So, look, Zoomers, any of you watching, you can dunk on millennials anytime you want. You guys get a free pass because this was beautiful. Nailed it. You know, I used to get annoyed that every trending topic, right, on Twitter was dominated by like K-pop videos, right? I'd be like, oh, geez, man, I just want to get to what people are saying about this. Now, you know what? I don't have a problem. Keep doing your thing, you beautiful bastards. K-pop stans. Love it. That is one reason, of course, very few people showed up to Donald Trump's rallies. The rest, of course, could be fears of coronavirus. Turns out that whole thing is real. And the fact that there's no enthusiasm for President Trump anymore. Trump is deeply unpopular. And so nobody, like, I don't think a lot of people are really going to want to show up. And so now that has the president actually incredibly shocked. Like, he's like, oh my God, why are people not showing up? This is supposed to be a great rally. It's supposed to be my comeback rally. Now, according, again, to the New York Times, Trump, who had been warned aboard Air Force One the crowds at the arena were much smaller than expected, was stunned, and he ended up yelling at aides backstage while looking at the endless rows of empty blue seats in the upper bowl of the stadium, according to 4 people familiar with what took place. And I already showed you that picture. Parscale, interestingly enough, was not present. That's probably a good thing, right? But again, here's the thing about Parscale, right? He's just using Donald Trump. He's making bank off doing a job and doing it very, very poorly. And so he's going to, you know, continue to make a lot of money as long as he's in that job, and then siphoning it off for himself to buy himself like fancy suits and fancy cars and all that stuff. And then if he gets fired, he's going to be like, see you, loser. He's going to go write a book. Watch. That, I swear that'll happen. But at the end of the day, man, this is kind of the perfect beginning to what is probably going to be a very sad and pathetic Trump campaign. I mean, his reelection is in a little bit of peril. Not to say that people shouldn't, of course, get overconfident. But again, we got a perfect storm. Coronavirus, economic disaster, obviously the looting and pillaging from the taxpayer to the rich and the corporations, all of this stuff. And the fact that nobody likes him. He was deeply unpopular when he was elected, and he's even more unpopular now and losing broad sections of his base. He's in deep, deep trouble. And I think he's starting to catch on. Sad. All right. Moving on. Oh, that picture. This is what Schadenfreude looks like. All right. Following Donald Trump's disaster rally in Tulsa, a picture of a very sad and dejected President Trump started making the rounds. Here he is, of course, after the rally, in which 6,200 people, there he is, showed up, despite it being hyped up by his campaign to be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even 1 million people had registered, according to the campaign. Sad, baby. The New York Times, of course, reported that Trump had been furious at the turnout. The president, who had been warned aboard Air Force One that the crowds at the arena were smaller than expected, was stunned, and he yelled at aides backstage while looking at the endless rows of empty blue seats in the upper bowl of the stadium, according to 4 people. By the end of the rally, Mr. Trump's mood had improved, mainly because he was able to go and talk in front of the crowd, small as it was, about fake news and all this stuff. And then after leaving the stage, according to advisors, the fight seemed to have left him, at least temporarily. Leaving the arena, he wasn't yelling. Instead, he was mostly muted. When he landed back at the White House and walked off Marine One, his tie hung untied around his neck. He waved to reporters with a defeated expression on his face, holding a crumpled red hat in one hand. And actually, you know what? I'd love to show you the Trump walk of shame. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Oh God, that was sad. Oh my God, just a little like the thumbs up. You know what that looks like? That looks like winning. That's what that looked like. Now this got a lot of reaction on social media. Everybody was memeing this, putting this like to music. I would love to be able to show that, but I would get hit with like copyright. But there is an ad that I want to show you here in a few minutes. But let me read off some of the reaction on social media because it's always fun. One person said, "That is a Pulitzer Prize winning photo." That was from the Associated Press, by the way. Another person says, "So much winning." Another says, "One for the ages." Another says, "Mortified and humiliated, Donald Trump cannot escape the glare of the lights or the flash of the cameras as he walks from Marine One to the White House." Another said, "This is one sad, pitiful looking old tired man." He did look really sad. I mean, look, you can pinpoint probably the exact moment where it's like you saw that his heart is broken, just like shattered. Like, oh my God, why? Bad. Very sad. Another person says, "Please make this an iconic image of the Trump presidency. It'd be like Nixon's victory signal photo, but much sadder." Others say, "Disheveled, defeated, humiliated. His pathetic dog and pony show of racism, xenophobia, corruption, and lies is getting old. He was undermined, outclassed, and embarrassed by teenagers across the nation who coordinated mass purchases of tickets. Bad night for him and his cult." And of course, that's referring to the K-pop stans and TikTok Zoomers who did an awesome job by literally registering for thousands of free tickets with no intention to go. I mean, how many of those people actually did that and how much of an effect it had? Not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure it had some effect. Awesome. So now, apparently, Zoomers, you can trash millennials all you want. We're still going to stand you guys. So now, another one says, "I see the next Project Lincoln ad. Why is sad Trump sad? Is it because 1,000 Americans are dying every day? Is it because Black Americans are being murdered by the people paid to protect them? No, he's sad because he was punked by teenagers." So now that's an idea for Project Lincoln. I actually have the Project Lincoln ad. They were really, really fast. They were quick on this. And they actually released a number of ads, but here's one of the first ones. Take a look. Holy shit. Okay, that was good. You don't even have to have that announcer, right? And I don't know, like, I don't know who that lady is that normally announces, on these videos, like, Donald Trump is such a very sad man. Like, I don't know who she is, but I really would not want her narrating a video about me. And she's in another one. I don't have any other, Project Lincoln ad videos right now, but there's more than one about this, and they're all devastating. So Project Lincoln, of course, is a Republican group, so that's why they're vicious, right? You never see a Democrat run an ad like this, which sucks because I think we need to be like, I like this. I like these ads. I'm different than a lot of progressives. I'm vicious. Why? Because I want to win, right? And so, yeah, I'll run a vicious ad as long as it's fair. That right there, that's incredibly fair. That's, I mean, just a comparison between Donald Trump pre-rally and Donald Trump post-rally, post-pathetic rally, I should say. No, perfect. No lies, nothing, like no lies detected, right? No, that's a perfect ad. And it is perfectly vicious, and it cuts deep because it goes at Donald Trump's ego. And that's what we should do. We need to be more vicious when it comes to not only just Donald Trump, right, obviously, but pretty much all Republicans. I mean, if you're going to run against a Republican, be vicious in an ad. Especially like when it comes to, the modern Republican Party, of which most have embraced fascism. Donald Trump's fascism, right? And look, I know it goes against our nature to be brutal as Republicans, but we need to take a page from Republicans, ironically, in this respect and go hard. We go hard, but we go with, of course, real substance and real criticism. That's not taking the page from certain Republicans, right? Because we're actually going to be factual, and we're not going to make things up, and we're not going to do stupid things. But like now, it's almost as if the Lincoln Project is kind of like a throwback of what Republicans used to do and the hard-hitting ads that they used to put out. Now, like, all Republican ads are like a person taking a gun and shooting a bill, Like, I'm going to shoot regulation. Like, it's all insane. So this is a throwback to when they actually did make sense in some of their ads, and when they weren't running horribly racist ads like Willie Horton, and were actually tough. That's what I'm saying progressives should do. We need to be tough, right? We need to go hard. We need to go hard with substance, with real criticism, because it's effective and it's strong, and we need to stop basically messing around. We need to not be afraid to punch up and kick while these people are down, right? Because these same people will not hesitate to punch down and kick down at the most vulnerable. So we need to be out there and challenging that. But nonetheless, this is an awesome ad showing Donald Trump at his most saddest and most pathetic is just fantastic. And I love every minute of it. Why? Because Donald Trump himself is a pretty terrible person. And what can I say? I love it. And I'm not ashamed. All right. Moving on. President Donald Trump is already laying the groundwork for an excuse if he fails to win re-election. Now, he's going to claim that the election was rigged against him, and that mail-in voting is the cause of it being rigged against him. In fact, in a series of tweets, he lays out his nonsensical argument. Here's the first one. This will be the election disaster of our time. And this, in that tweet, he cites an article from Breitbart. Remember Breitbart? Yeah. So now Breitbart had an article that featured comments from Attorney General William Barr. So William Barr was on Fox News on Sunday, and he said that voting by mail would open the floodgates to fraud. Specifically, and this is the first time I've seen this part of this argument, right? Because look, Republicans have already been arguing, oh, mail-in voting, so much fraud, right? This time, they go xenophobic on it, right? And they say that a foreign country, like, for example, China, could print up tens of thousands of counterfeit ballots, and it would be difficult to figure out which ballots were valid. So that's our Attorney General coming up with this conspiracy theory that another country will try to help steal the election. Of all the projection in the world, I mean, seriously. All right, complete and utter garbage, right? No evidence of that. Barr hasn't provided evidence. The administration hasn't provided evidence. I mean, come on, guys. You're literally in control of the government. William Barr, you're running the Justice Department, right? You guys are in the government. You could go and get the evidence and present it to the American people and say, look, there's a serious issue with mail-in ballots right now. You know why they can't do that? Oh, right. It's because they have no evidence. It's just more BS propaganda. It's more like nativist rhetoric to try to fearmonger about other countries, and more importantly, fearmonger about voting by mail, because they don't want people to vote by mail. So now there's that, right? And so, of course, multiple states pushed back against that and said, hey, whoa, that would be virtually impossible for something like that to happen and not get caught. And so, again, that's not going to stop people who believe in conspiracy theories like Donald Trump, who think, well, the states, they're all against me, so they're just going to let China print up ballots, and they're going to be fake ballots, and then I'm going to lose. But I didn't actually lose because I'm not a loser. I'm a winner. And that's what it's all about. All right. So gets me to Trump's second tweet here. He says, rigged 2020 election, all caps, by the way. Millions of mail-in ballots will be printed by foreign countries and others. It will be the scandal of our times. Oh my God, look at this terrible thing that somebody just made up to distract you from my corrupt administration, coronavirus, failing economy, and protests against police violence. Scandal of our times. Scandal. All you have to do is just scream it. And of course, the sheep over, his followers are going to be like, oh my God, yes, mail-in ballots, so terrible. You know who else has used mail-in ballots? Donald Trump, Ivanka Trump, I believe Jared Kushner, and Kayleigh McEnany, as well as others. They've all used mail-in absentee ballots, and they had no problem. Complete and utter hypocrisy. All right, so again, aside from the projection here of these tweets, including one that called for the end of the stupidity of mail-in ballots, again, that he has actually used, and also saying that Democrats were using COVID-19, the coronavirus, in order to cheat by promoting mail-in ballots. So aside from that ridiculous projection, which is hilarious, because not only is he one of the dumbest people in America who lies and cheats, I mean, look, the mail-in ballots, the whole thing is hypocrisy. Again, he's used them before. He'd use them again if they're convenient. And so why is it okay for him and not for the American people? Oh, right, because whatever benefits Donald Trump is good. Whatever hurts Donald Trump potentially is bad. And that's what that is, right? And so, look, there's a pandemic out there. No matter how much MAGA guys are going to want to stick their fingers in their ears or in other places and hum really loudly whenever somebody says it. Whenever somebody talks about the new infection totals that are coming out in states that have opened up too early. It's here. Cases have not dropped like they had in other countries. Other countries have like a curve and then it goes back down, right? We just went up and then went like this. We're plateaued, okay? We're continuing to get over 1,000 a day. And so we're holding steady. And so experts are saying like, well, we can't really have a second wave because, I mean, we're not done with the first one, but then it's going to get worse when it comes to the fall. And so, look, I was wrong. I said second wave is coming. It's here. It turns out, no, never. It didn't come because that's just still part of the first wave. Never ended. And because of that, of course, you had several states that actually expanded their mail-in voting. But unfortunately, the side effect of that to Republicans, and I say that from a Republican perspective, unfortunately, right? For them, that just equals more democracy. And we can't have more democracy. Very bad. Not good. Very bad. We don't want democracy. We don't want people voting. And look, it's not just Donald Trump. Republicans have been running in that playbook for decades. Suppress the vote, right? Block people from voting, especially black people, minorities, students, anybody who could potentially vote for Democrats, anyone who's not a white Christian or wealthy person, right? Those are the people they don't want voting because everyone else, right? I mean, they don't want, they actually do want white Christians, in case you're confused. They want the white Christian voter, wealthy people. Those are the only ones they want to vote. Everybody else, no, if you're going to vote for Democrats, then I want to stop you. And I want to actually stop you from making voting easier. See, my base, and I'm talking as a Republican, their base doesn't believe in the science. They don't care about coronavirus. They'll come out and vote. They'll turn out in droves anyway, right? I mean, maybe not this time because you get a real lack of enthusiasm from the Republican side. But, I mean, they still are going to turn out. There's still a hardcore MAGA base out there that is much smaller than everyone else. But they're much more dedicated and they get out to the polls. Doesn't matter if you have coronavirus. It doesn't matter about any of that. And so they're going to show up. For everyone else who is concerned, well, we want to expand voting by mail so that you can vote safely and not have to sit in person, not have to wait in these gigantic lines, as we've seen in places like Georgia and you know, other states that have Wisconsin, for example, that didn't do mail-in ballots or absentee ballots or anything like that. And so, I mean, the administration wants to end that and it wants to end mail-in ballots and make sure that people have to go and wait in person and expose themselves to the danger, maybe because they figure that Democrats won't because we're worried about COVID-19. And so, look, it's voter suppression. That's what this is, right? It's voter suppression. And so now poor communities where people have traditionally waited in line for hours, right? You have situations where now polling places have been cut even more. And so what happened to be, 2-hour waits are not going to turn into 6 to 8 hour waits for people to go and vote. And this is amid coronavirus. And so that's what Republicans are trying to do. They're trying to do that. They actually did that in Kentucky. And so the thing is, if you don't need a voting place or a polling place if you can vote by mail. And so that's why Republicans want to shut it down so that they can continue to steal elections. And so that's why, I mean, even though they use vote by mail, these Republicans are still going to war against it. It's hypocrisy. If most of the country has a choice, they will vote by mail. It is easier, and it actually is safer from tampering, has a lower fraud rate than other ways of voting, and that's what they're scared of. They're scared of more voting. They don't want more voting. Going back, of course, to the Paul Weyrich, godfather of the modern conservative movement. He warned about the Goo-Goo syndrome, good government, right? And he says that more people voting makes sure that Republicans have a harder time of getting elected and reelected. And so, I mean, that's it. That's the playbook. Voter suppression, shutting down of polling places, as well as ending mail-in ballots, which, by the way, about a quarter of a country of the country actually votes by mail already. And so in a lot of states actually do have the ability to vote by mail. It's just now, because of coronavirus, it's becoming even more of a better way to vote. And so that's why, again, Republicans are against it. Donald Trump's against it because he really is afraid of losing his reelection. And with good reason, I think. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break. I'm going to come back and thank some patrons, some channel members. We'll get into, of course, more voter suppression in Kentucky, some details about that. And then we've got bad news about the environment. So fun times. Stay right here around the nation. I'm going to read some, comments, super chats if I had them, and thank a couple of members. So look forward to that. And then we'll get to the rest of the stories. Stay right here around the nation. We'll be right back.
Tolerated.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Mike Pounds.
Why, you're getting nervous, man.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
Welcome back to the show, Around the Nation, right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Walder here with you. All right, so thank you for sticking around, by the way. All right, so super chat here from LL says Brad should legally change his name to Subpar Scale. Oh, I like the puns. Thank you, L. Love the puns. They're so bad, but so good. All right, there's that. Let me thank a couple of patrons here. So I want to thank Anala Kapoor and Marka Diem. So thank you for signing up. You want to sign up to support independent progressive media so that someday we can take on and help reform corporate news, cable news, to make them better, more responsive to the people, and to actually report the news. That would be nice. You can do that by making us a powerhouse, and not just us, of course, but independent progressive media. I'm talking about the Humanist Report. I'm talking about Rational National. I'm talking about, obviously, like I said here, but Ring of Fire, all these different great lefty groups and lefty channels. We all need your support. And so we can grow together and become a force to be reckoned with. And so in the way that we would use our power, of course, is to promote progressive candidates so that we can continue to grow the progressive coalition in Congress and start to beat back and defeat the corporate Democrats and defeat the DNC as it stands today. All right. And we can do that with your help, with good media, with responsible, independent media. All right. So channel memberships, by the way, it's another way to help the show. I want to thank Ether and Marissa Torres. So thank you for signing up to be a channel member. You can do that by hitting the join button below as well. All right. There's one comment that I saw that was really interesting. Let's see. It's going to take me a while to find it. So I think I will just head back into the stories. But I wish I had saved that. So, all right. Let's go to voter suppression. Good old Kentucky. On June 23rd, many states will hold important primary elections. Now, Kentucky is one of those states that not only has a high-profile race in November, but also a high-profile primary that is happening tomorrow. So now in that, you have progressive Charles Booker. Charles Booker is a black state representative taking on a corporate Democrat backed by the DNC, backed by the establishment, named Amy McGrath. Now, Amy McGrath is basically Allison Lundergan Grimes 2.0. Now, for those of you who haven't heard of Allison Lundergan Grimes, well, there's a reason for that. It's because she lost, and she lost badly to Mitch McConnell back in 2014. She was someone who refused to say that whether or not she had voted for Barack Obama, and also argued that she likes coal more than Mitch McConnell. That's a Democrat, right? So now go to Amy McGrath, and she says she will vote with Trump on certain issues. And so absolutely terrible so-called Democrat, right? So now recently, as Black Lives Matter protests have really taken off, you had Booker that has just taken a commanding lead over Amy McGrath. It's about 10-point lead. He's got a better chance than she does at taking on Mitch McConnell and winning. Even though, of course, polls show McConnell has a comfortable lead over both of them, Charles Booker is actually within closer striking distance of taking down McConnell than McGrath. And so even if it's a loss for progressives, it actually would be a closer loss than you would by running a corporate Democrat, which means that Charles Booker, yes, he's already a state representative, but if he were to run again, get more name recognition, and get more out there, then it's very possible that even the next election, if he's not successful now, he could be the one to topple Mitch McConnell. And so very, very important, right? So now, along with this very important primary, you have coronavirus, right? So that's limited the ability to vote in person. In fact, Governor Andy Beshear had delayed the primary. It was actually supposed to have happened a while ago, from mid-May to June 23rd in response to coronavirus. He actually issued an executive order requiring the Board of Elections to expand vote by mail, permit early voting, and limit contact among voters and poll workers during in-person voting. So it's a good executive order. In fact, unfortunately, I should say, the Board of Elections did something differently. They decided to close a whole bunch of polling places. These Board of Elections, about a week later, after this executive order, right, they directed the county clerks across the state to submit plans that included cuts to the number of polling locations in each county. Counties across the state, of course, complied with that. Louisville's Jefferson County, for example, who has a population of 767,000 people, chose a single polling place. So Jefferson County, one polling place. You also have Fayette County, with a population of 318,000, selecting one polling place. That's the University of Kentucky's football stadium. So now, all in all, according to the Washington Post, Kentucky officials have reduced the number of polling places in the state from 3,700 in a typical election year to fewer than 200 this month. And of course, the majority of the reductions happen to have happened in minority areas. Because of course. So look, I understand, like, if you want to use coronavirus to be like, no, that's it's not about voter suppression. No, it's about coronavirus. I mean, if we're going to expand voting by mail and give everybody absentee ballots, then we don't need as many polling places. Okay, well, that argument would make sense, except there is a problem that not everybody's been able to get absentee ballots. So, again, if everyone were able to get their absentee ballots and vote by mail, and you make voting easier, then I would be okay with saying, okay, look, let's cut some of the polling places. However, let's not cut all of them, and let's make sure that we still have a few in minority areas for people that decide they do want to vote in person or didn't get their absentee ballots, whatever. But, I would do it in a way right now that ensures that you can still space people out if they decide to vote in person, which means ultimately more polling places, or at least keeping a large number of them still active, not making such drastic cuts. Unfortunately, again, this is what Kentucky has done, and so with less polling places now, you're going to actually end up disenfranchising people and putting more people in danger to create, and as well as creating massive lines that people will end up leaving. And so that is the unfortunate reality. Now, according to Mother Jones, though thousands of voters have requested mail-in ballots in an attempt to avoid going in person in those lines, some have yet to receive them just days before the election date of June 23rd, when they must be postmarked. So now they're talking about Kentucky election officials saying that, well, if you don't have an absentee ballot, you can still vote in person. But wait, coronavirus and cutting the polling places, that kind of defeats the whole purpose of the mail-in ballots, doesn't it? So, look, I think they're dragging their feet, right? I mean, you cut the amount of polling places, and then you drag your feet on absentee ballots, and then say, oh, don't worry about that. You can just go in line. No, you're going to end up having voter suppression. That's what that is. In fact, again, in the counties where polling stations were cut to a single polling place, turns out in those areas you have high African-American populations. For example, in Jefferson County, about 20% of the residents are African-American. That's actually the county's, basically that's most of the county's black population. Now, Ari Berman explains that Kentucky cutting the number of polling places for Tuesday's primary from 3,700 to 200. There will be one polling place for 616,000 registered voters in Louisville's Jefferson County, where half the state's black voters live. This is going to be a disaster. And to that I say, yes, of course it will. That's it. That's what, and yet they're still going ahead with this, right? Even though it has been challenged, and ironically by a Republican, because there are some Republicans that still do actually believe in voting, even though I generally tend to say, and I understand that I kind of paint with a broad brush when I discuss the Republican Party, because generally as a party, they have been against enfranchising the vote. And so they've been in favor of disenfranchising, doing arbitrary voter roll purges, and all these dirty tricks, basically, to go and make sure that they win and that they keep an advantage, they hold an advantage, because right now they don't have the majority of voters. They don't have the majority of the people. They have the most dedicated voters, and that's how they continue to get into power, along with dirty tricks. But generally, most people don't identify as Republicans or Democrats and tend to lead still, or I should say lean, more in a left direction. That said, even though a Republican came out and said, hey, look, let's challenge, I'm going to challenge these, these polling place closures. We need more polling places. They got stopped. On Thursday night, a federal judge denied a motion in a class action lawsuit filed by Republican State Representative Jason Nemes and voters from Kentucky's Jefferson, Fayette, and Kenton counties. The lawsuit sought a court order to add more polling places to the counties, the 3 most populous in the state, and yet it was denied, according to Judge Charles Simpson III, saying the issue before this court is not whether the hypothetical voter in Kentucky's upcoming primary election would benefit from additional polling locations. It's that rather the issue is whether the challenged election procedures result in a cognizable infringement under the Constitution or an injury under the Voting Rights Act. We conclude that it does not. So, okay. Now, the Voting Rights Act is something that's been gutted by the Supreme Court, particularly Section 5, right? So Section 5 basically allowed the government to look over and kind of police elections in states like Kentucky and Georgia to make sure that they're not doing voter suppression by purging voter rolls, black sounding names, and of course cutting polling places in minority areas. Well, since we don't have Section 5 anymore, you can look at this. A judge can now look at this and say, oh, you're cutting polling places from minority areas? Not an infringement of the Voting Rights Act. Why? Because Section 5 doesn't exist anymore. It got struck down. It got ended. And so, sorry, nothing you can do. This does not infringe anything. You may proceed in cutting 3,500 polling places. That's disastrous. That is absolutely disastrous, especially, again, even absent of coronavirus. The fact that you still have so many polling places in minority areas that get cut, it is very obvious what the result is going to be. Gigantic lines in African-American areas, right, which leads to the disenfranchisement of their votes. I mean, look, I know that you can stay in line, but not everybody can afford to do that. Not everybody can afford to, especially if you're working, if you are an essential employee at this point, and you still have to go to work because that can't get unemployment benefits, or you didn't get that $1,200 stimulus check or whatever. You can't afford to stay in line. Like, you got to go to work. And you got to, pay your bills. And so, yeah, a lot of people leave the line before they're able to get a chance to vote because the lines are so long, because there are no voting and polling places anywhere. And so it's ridiculous. It's another way to disenfranchise people and engage in voter suppression. And we all know how it's going to turn out, right? Is there going to be any surprise if after tomorrow, probably Wednesday, Thursday, whatever, we find out that there are, of course, gigantic lines, people running out of ballots, absentee ballots not being counted, and voter irregularities happening in these in higher minority counties? You better believe it. It's going to end up being the same kind of shit show that Georgia was. Complete and utter disaster. And it's because people in power, a lot of them want to keep it that way. And that's the unfortunate truth. Okay. Last story for you guys. We're all doomed. That's a synopsis. Although it looks very pleasant there in that picture. Very pleasant indeed. One of the hottest reported temperatures in the Arctic has just been reported from a small Siberian town. So now that Siberian town is just north of the Arctic Circle, and it should be relatively cool, right? In fact, this is one of the coldest towns, and it's named Verkhoyansk. There's no way I said that right. And look, the highest temperatures that they normally would have there would be normally around 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So now, the latest temperature that was recorded, however, Well, it wasn't 70 degrees. It wasn't 75. It wasn't 80. It was 100 degrees. 100 degrees in the Arctic Circle. That is disastrous. All right, so now Washington Post reporter, and this is a climate reporter, Andrew Friedman, noted on Sunday that if the reading is confirmed, and there's small question about that, they want to make sure that they get this right, that it would be the northernmost 100-degree reading ever observed. And the highest temperature on record in the Arctic, a region that climate experts note is warming at more than twice the rate of the rest of the globe. And that's, of course, where you're seeing these record temperatures that pop up in the Arctic, and it has more of a jarring effect than more modest temperature increases in other parts of the world. But even though that they're modest, they do add up. 1 degree Celsius can, well, make a big difference. So now, in case you think, hey man, look, what if this is an anomaly? What if it's just one day of super weirdness, right? And that normally that does not happen in the Arctic, 100 degrees, freak of nature, right? All right, well, it'd have to be a freaky weekend because that same day, or I'm sorry, the next day, the same location recorded a high of 95 degrees. 95 on Sunday, 100 degrees on Saturday. That is not an anomaly. Now, the newspaper also reported that while some questions remain about the accuracy of the Verkhoyansk temperature measurement, data from a Saturday weather balloon launched at location supports the 100-degree reading. Temperatures in the lower atmosphere at about 5,000 feet were also unusually warm at 70 degrees or 21 degrees Celsius, a sign of extreme heat at the surface. The World Meteorological Organization said on Sunday that that is preliminarily accepting the observation as a new extreme as it conducts a more thorough review of the Verkhoyansk reading. So 100 degrees, guys, 100 degrees in the Arctic. That's not normal. That's weird. But look, it's weird has been happening a lot. And it's going to continue to get weird because of climate change. You have extreme temperatures in Siberia becoming incredibly common. And that's got a lot of people that are very worried. In fact, climate activist and conservationist Charlie Gardner says this: been watching the Siberian heat wave for months, and it's beyond terrifying. Already suffering what was expected in 2100 in a worst case scenario. So we are worst case scenario. We're already there for 2100, and it's 2020. Oops. Can we sound the alarm yet on climate change, guys? I know, like, the right loves to come at us like, oh my God, you climate alarmists, you guys. No, we haven't been ringing the alarm enough. No, we should be more alarmist. There should be protests in the streets the same way that there is Black Lives Matter. And I'm not trying to draw like an equivalence of those two things, right? Or to try to demean or dismiss Black Lives Matter at all. What I'm saying is, hey, the climate is also really important and it affects us all as well. And so it's the, continuation of our civilization that is at stake. And that is the problem. So Siberia, again, they're kind of like the canary in the coal mines at this point, right? The freak temperatures in Siberia, according to The Guardian, have been linked to wildfires, a huge oil spill, and a plague of tree-eating moths. That's just an aside there, right? But are you still not concerned about climate change, guys? I mean, I know I am. But unfortunately, the people in power aren't. Vladimir Putin, not concerned, even though half his country's on fire. Trump, same thing. President Xi of China, don't care. In fact, you don't have a lot of the major world leaders that are caring enough. At least they don't care enough to do bold action. And that's the problem. And the reason, of course, is follow the money. Here in America, where lobbyists run the government, where the government is 100% corrupted by money, you had oil and gas companies spending over $125 million on lobbying, buying politicians. That's why in America, we don't do anything about climate change. Not only that, but we have a political party that doesn't believe in facts, in science at all. They just don't. And so you have these areas where you have major problems, heat waves that are not normal, that are not of the norm, and yet they refuse to do nothing. So they refuse to do anything. And what we're talking about, by the way, is, yes, it is bold, it is transformative, right? Because we need to do that. I mean, we need to, stop the world's reliance on fossil fuels and actually go to alternative energies. But if you try to do that, well, you'll run up against that gigantic wall of money. I mean, the world runs in the petrodollar, and if you try to dismantle that, you've got entire governments after you. Not to mention, if you're actually successful, how do you replace that to truly build a world based on alternative energies? How do you do that? It's not an easy thing, but of course it's necessary. And so, because right now, tip of the iceberg, I mean, if there's any left, or will be any left, I mean, give it time. There's not going to be any ice left. And if you think that's a good thing, it's not. Less ice equals more water, because that's what ice is. That means higher oceans, more flooding, stronger, more long-lasting storms. Because guess what? Hurricanes get their energy from warm water. They move over warm water. They gather strength. When they hit land, more water, of course, equals more stronger storms, more warm water. So, and of course, with ocean warming, because of climate change, very bad. Let's just say that it's not going to be a vacation. It's going to be an absolute disaster. And I'm just going to read a quote here from environmentalist350.org co-founder Bill McKibben, who saw this news and just has 3 words. This scares me. Well, it should scare all of us. And if you're paying attention, if you have been paying attention to the heat waves in Siberia and other places, and what we're continuing to do with the climate, well, you would be scared too. All right. That's it. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you for going around the nation with me. Please like and share the stream. Please subscribe to the channel. Support us, patreon.com/TYTNation, or become a channel member, all that stuff. So thank you guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, Nation. We'll see you guys later.
Mike Pounds.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
Please clap. They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.